Security keeps breaking these up. They don't want you to do this. So what we're planning, the Liberty Villages is coming back up. It'll be small structures that will house veterans. Veterans, you want a job? Walmart's giving a job to any job preference to every vet. Yeah, I don't like them either, but hey, they are in America, and they were created in America, and we can work for them, and we can make a difference inside. Let's say if you're a vet, you're homeless, we want to build a home for you, and Walmart wants to give you a job. That's what is happening now. Now, what we saw with Sandy Hook, more Zionist manipulation of using the television, using the media to get your guns. Get your guns. Now, when this present gun control dance concludes, America could soon be doing a waltz with a different partner, World War III, as the globalists completely condition us to be absolutely submissive to their desires. If we surrender our guns and capitulate to the globalists, tens of millions of Americans will die from starvation, targeted genocide, and world war if history truly repeats itself. Okay, let me see here. Now, I am putting back all of my connections. Anthony Hilder, he had a stroke. Ted Gunderson, he died. But he spoke to us from the grave. And I shared that with you yesterday. Now, okay, the globalists completely condition us to be absolutely submissive to their desires. There is, however, another alternative. We could decide to enter into the tried and true three-stage plan of revolution. These two bipolar choices do not provide America with much of a middle ground. Our future will be one alternative or another. You may be wondering if this potential revolution will be violent. My answer to that question is that depends on the actions of the bankers who have hijacked our government. This is a globalist plan, folks. This is a globalist plan. America is so focused on the gun control issue that we are failing to see the end game, which could lead us to not prepare accordingly. History shows that any nation that permits gun confiscation in any form invites genocide. However, the Second Amendment debate is a preliminary round to the worldwide conflict that will follow gun confiscation and the imposition of martial law. The gun confiscation, the false flag attacks on American schools are being used as a pretext to seize the guns. And why does Obama and his puppeteers so desperately want our guns? Because America would never accept the brutal form of martial law and selective genocide which will be needed to subjugate the country and bend it to the will of the globalists. Martial law, this is why DHS was created. This is why they ordered 1.6 billion rounds of ammunition, and I told you about this in the true face of FEMA almost 10 years ago. This is what's coming. This is what's coming. We're in for a long war, a war and this war will be fought on American soil. It's in my true face of FEMA. Now, if you send a donation to me today for $20 and say true face of FEMA, I will send that DVD to you, and you can use that to start your truth seekers meetings, because it tells you, in case of a single outbreak of smallpox in a major metropolitan area, we'll need 400,000 well-trained, organized, disciplined troops. Because some of these Americans just won't follow orders. Oh yeah. Okay. Now, folks, if you don't understand how serious this is why DHS had ordered 1.6 billion rounds of ammunition, hollow point ammunition, banned in warfare. They know that at least some of us will not willingly submit to the coming conscription and the seizure of our assets. This is also why Obama signed into law the NDAA, so he could eliminate the leadership of the coming resistance movements without the negative attention and publicity of a trial. I believe step 2 will consist of house-to-house gun confiscation and the rounding up of perceived dissidents, the new terrorist, if you will. Now, folks, this is why they listed me 10 years ago as in the FBI's guide to right-wing extremists. This is why they tried to kill me less than 10 years ago. This is what is happening. I told you I'm the canary in the coal mine. I've told you that. And what they do to me, they will do to you. What they've done to me, now they're doing to others. And you could be next. You could be next. Now, I have the plan. I have the ability to do this. We can make our own solar. We can do this. We can kick the neighborhood situations in the butt. We can go back to the small towns. We can restore the family farms, the birthplace of every civilization, if we work together. Now, actually, I will send you for a $20 donation today. If you're listening to this, go make a $20 donation to clay@freeamerican.com. If you're not willing to do that, then you're nothing more than trolls out there watching the video and going, yeah, look. I don't like his shirt. I don't like the way I don't like that long hair. I don't like the fact that he talks about legalizing marijuana like that's a good thing. Well, it damn sure is. And they, just like they took your alcohol, just like they took your hemp from you, your #1 cash crop. My God, don't you understand? If a man with a badge can come up to you and go, what's that in that pipe? What's that in that is that a cigarette? Oh, that smells like marijuana. Oh, you're going to jail. You live in a police state, and they use these drug laws to arrest 50 million Americans. And in a lot of those states, it was a felony to have a joint, punishable by 99 years to life. That's the police state, and they put you in this 100 years ago with the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve stole the bankers stole your #1 cash crop, and you can't get high off of hemp, but you can make 10,000 products of it, and they do make 10,000 products, but you got to buy it from China, because the communists want to break America. Now, what we're talking about here with this activist post, we're talking about the petrodollar. We have to use the petrodollar because they stole your renewable resource. They'd rather you cut a tree down to make paper than harvest your hemp and replant it year after year after year after year. Now, folks, this is a little urgent because of what I just shared with you. That step 2 will consist of house-to-house gun confiscation and the rounding up of perceived dissidents or the hanging of them. as happened to Aaron Swartz. Now, World War III will be staged following a series of false flag attacks in order to save the petrodollar. As part of this three-stage attack upon America, our country will be victimized by a series of involuntary conscriptions, either into the military or the civilian labor brigade. Further, in scenes right out of the movie The Hunger Games, the government plans to confiscate any of your valuable resources, such as stored food, water, and of course guns and ammunition. I do not need a crystal ball to make this prediction, because Obama has already signaled his intentions, as witnessed by the Obama issuance of the National Resources Preparedness Executive Order. This EO gives Obama unlimited power to control virtually every resource and impose virtual slavery upon any and all Americans. Read the executive order. It's eye-opening. It is more draconian than anything ever conceived by the East German Stasi. Why is Obama so hell-bent on subjugating the American people? Simple. The bread and butter of the Federal Reserve, the petrodollar, is being seriously threatened by Russia, China, India, and Iran. The United States has debt, crushing debt, which makes the former Weimar Republic look solvent by comparison. Unfortunately, the United States abandoned the gold standard a long time ago. So what then keeps our economy from degenerating into a trading and bartering society resulting from a collapsed dollar? The United States' good economic fortune is due solely to the fact that the world must use the dollar, the petrodollar if you will, in order to make their nation's individual oil purchases, and this provides the only source of backing to the U.S. dollar and the Federal Reserve System requires in order to somewhat sustain our back-breaking debt and the banker-occupied United States government that has passed along to the American taxpayer in the form of bailouts. Despite the economic pain associated with the enormous debt caused by the Wall Street crowd, Ponzi schemes associated with the now infamous derivatives, American economy has proven to be resilient. However, if the artificial global dollar demand made possible by the petrodollar system were ever to crumble, our days of economic dominance would abruptly end, and the resulting economic chaos would be followed by the need to impose martial law on a starving public. Again, tens of millions of Americans will die in this scenario. The communist nations are challenging the dominance of the petrodollar. Unfortunately, for every man, woman, and child in America, the day of economic reckoning is quickly approaching. China has commenced buying Iranian oil and gold. India has followed suit, as have the Russians. The days of the petrodollar are numbered, therefore, so is the only source of backing of our dollar. Have you and your family prepared for the collapse of the dollar and ultimately the collapse of society? Like most Americans who have awakened from their slumber, I came to realize that the private Federal Reserve is responsible for most of the evil perpetrated on the world. And I personally loathe the organization. It's not hard to cheer the fact that the days of the Federal Reserve dominance may be coming to an end, yet I would advise against popping the corks on the champagne bottles, because like it or not, America's economic fortunes are tied to the health of the dollar, and our precious dollar has come down with a terminal economic case of the Asian flu. If Federal Reserve crashes and burns, so will everything you've ever worked for. If the Federal Reserve collapses over the impending crisis, the resulting economic holocaust will make the United States unrecognizable within a very short time, and your personal fortunes will sink right along with the notorious robber barons who are feverishly involved in stealing as many home mortgages as possible through schemes like the robo-signers of MERS. The Federal Reserve, the same people who perpetrated the MERS fraud, is also involved in buying up mortgage-backed securities in an attempt to garner the lion's share of the housing industry. And if you didn't hear it, the 7th Court of Appeals made it illegal for the banks to steal your deposits. Don't think for a moment that these events are not contrived by the banker as much as they can of the public assets, to get as much as they can of the public assets in as short a time as possible. in this time of crisis. The bankers clearly know what's coming, and they're in the process of stealing your assets in order to soften the blow of a collapsing dollar, so their golden parachute will be awarded to them courtesy of your hard-earned assets. Surely there must be something that can be done to avert this coming train wreck. Can the United States simply employ economic sanctions and force Iran to its knees without the cooperation of Russia, China, and India? And economic sanctions and an oil embargo will not be effective, and subsequently the United States cannot force Iranians back to the negotiating table over the oil issue. The situation is somewhat reminiscent of what happened the lead up to the 2003 Gulf War, when Iraq tried its hand at circumventing the petrodollar with under-the-table deals with France and Germany, in which a euro would be used to purchase oil. Saddam Hussein underestimated the federal board's reach and paid for this miscalculation with his life, because he did not have the support of powerful military allies. Iran is quite a different matter, as they have friends, very dangerous friends, who mean America harm. If the United States seeks to reverse the trend which seeks to the abandonment of the petrodollar, war seems to be the only option left to the bankers. Logic would seem to dictate that the military option will be employed, and therefore it will be a simple matter to ratchet up the rhetoric and seize Iranian oil fields and force capitulation. Subsequently, shouldn't the United States dust off an old familiar game plan and create a false flag event similar to the Gulf of Tonkin? Undoubtedly, that's what the Federal Reserve desires in a last-ditch effort to save the petrodollar. However, an act of war needs a pretext. Therefore, we can count on the fact that a series of false flag attacks will be utilized by the Federal Reserve friends at the CIA in order to justify the coming war with Iran. I predict we will see previously unimaginable false flag attacks which can be falsely pinned on the Iranian-based terrorism. This is when the National Defense Resources Preparedness Executive Order comes into play, and Obama will conscript the people and the resources in the last-ditch effort to save the petrodollar in World War. Now, I'm out of time here. There are more details, and the globalist plan will be revealed on the Free American. You make a donation today. Make a donation, 20 bucks, 10 bucks, $1, whatever you can afford. Make a donation so we can build our list, so we can get the emails up, so we can organize, get Liberty Villages set up, get the home set up, the veterans home set up, start growing our own groceries, and support the militia. We got millions of Americans that went out and bought guns. They need to know how to use it. We need the soldiers and the commanders like Colonel Gordon Duff to lead us in this. I am Clay Douglas, and we're out of time. I am the Free American. I will be restoring Liberty Villages, so as a communication. We've got blogs, we've got truth seekers. Things are happening here. Make a donation if you're listening to my voice. I don't care if it's $1. I won't send you a book for $1. But you send me 20 bucks, you can have any of my DVDs or any of my books as PDFs. You need to know what's happening. This radio show is telling you what is happening. And I'm telling you that you need to be able to support me, because I've been doing this along with Bill Cooper a lot longer than Alex Jones. I am Clay Douglas. I am the Free American. God bless you all.
Call recording has been completed.
Alright, well, we'll have another video up on another screen. screen here from YouTube. That'll get the first half of what I did, and maybe Lynn will be able to make some from the Blog Talk Radio. Although we did have a break in the Blog Talk, I picked it up on the other line, so there was a small break in it. But the last information that you got right here is very important. Go to freeamerican.com and check out Truth Seekers. We'll have ways that you can sign up. We'll figure this out. We can use the help. We can use you to start a Truth Seekers in your town, in your city. And I'm Toga, yeah, congratulations. You've been blessed with an awesome wife that joins you in your journey. More power to you. I hope to achieve that one day also. And for you here, folks, on this last half of this show, folks, the globalists have left clues which clearly signal their intentions, as well as a fair amount of their game plan, in order to inflict maximum casualties for the desired emotional reaction from the American people, namely fear and submission. Malls and sports stadiums are conspicuously effective targets for imaginary terrorists, especially when one considers the Simon Property Group, the largest owner of malls in America, as well as some of the professional sports leagues, have entered into a see something, say something partnership with the Department of Homeland Security. When one considers the massive purchase made by the DHS of 7.5 million rounds of ammonium nitrate, which was used to blow up the Oklahoma City federal building, does not make much foresight or skill in dot connecting to see where the scenario is heading. And for the unaware, the false flag strategy has already become operational, as Libyan Ambassador Stevens' death was merely the first of these false flag attacks, which will be used to chart a course for war against Iran and its neighbor Syria. That is why is Syria being destabilized? Because it's a doorway. It's the doorway which is needed to attack Russia with medium, long-range weapons. Now, creating the pretext for fighting a war, then successfully selling the American public on the need to fight the war is one thing. However, winning the war is quite another. How serious are the Chinese and Russians are at standing up to the imperialist United States? Consider that both Chinese President Hu and Major General Zhang Zhashong have threatened the United States with nuclear war if they invade either Iran or Syria. The Prudent Opinion says this is the newest version of the axis of evils lying in the sand. China, India, and Russia have pinned their economic futures on the fact that they are divorcing themselves of the debt-ridden dollar and charting a new economic course with gold as a baseline. They're not going to back down. To put muscle behind the collective defiance of the petrodollar, China brags it can place 100 million men on the battlefield. Russia maintains over 1,300 nuclear missiles, and India has joined the nuclear weapons fraternity a long time ago. As you read these words, you may be wondering if the conflict would escalate to a nuclear confrontation. I have a hard time imagining a situation in which the losing side would not resort to the use of tactical weapons as a best-case scenario. Ask yourself, if your country was faced with economic and military obliteration at the prospect of losing World War III, what would the losing side gain by keeping their nuclear missiles sitting quietly in their respective bunkers? Is the Federal Reserve-controlled United States government really insane enough to launch such a dangerous and potentially catastrophic war? The better question is, what do they have to lose? In the past, the Fed has created fortunes through opium, other people's money. They will employ the same strategy in World War III, as the Federal Reserve will prosecute this war with your money and risk your adult children to carry out last-ditch financial mission designed to save the Federal Reserve. Formerly, India was purchasing $12 billion per year for the purchase for the privilege to purchase oil, and we loved India all the way to the bank. Unfortunately, India has joined the revolt against the petrodollar and will start buying Iran's oil with gold. And the situation was even worsened as it appeared that China had begun to monetize gold that could spell the end of the fiat currencies in the United States and the EU. The petrodollar is doomed, and so is our way of life, unless America can make the Iranians capitulate and stick to the antiquated petrodollar system. Now, must we sleep with the devil? I never thought I would be on the same side of an issue as I am with the Federal Reserve, because the alternatives are not pleasant. On one hand, we can enter a dangerous war which threatens our very existence. On the other, we face an economic holocaust of epic proportions. And even if we are lucky enough to survive the coming war with our economy intact, the American people face the prospects of runaway inflationary effects of QE3, which has no monetary or time limits. Of course, we could have developed alternative energy sources for which the world would have been beating a path to our door, but that would have not suited the oil-dominated Federal Reserve. There is one other possibility: debt repudiation. Over 90% of the debt of modern sovereign nations is derived from the failed banking scams in which the globalists have coerced national governments to assume their debts inside of their national budgets. Therefore, short of capitulation to the globalists, the simple answer seems to be to repudiate the debt owed to these gangsters, consisting of all mortgages, all credit card debts, and all student loans. All debts must be written off, and let the Jubilee happen, or let the Wall Street cards fall where they may. However, since most of this debt is owed to the Federal Reserve dominated Wall Street bankers, debt repudiation will not occur without a full-scale civil war, because the bankers are not going to willingly sacrifice their main cash cow. If the bankers are willing to start a world war, don't think for a second they would not initiate a civil war to preserve their bottom line. Therefore, I can only see one answer if we are to avoid this impending disaster, and it's the only sane answer for the quandary we find ourselves in. Do you know what that one answer is? The chess pieces are being placed on the game board in preparation from World War III. If we as a country submit to the will of bankers, tens of millions of us will die. Many think we can change course by changing our elected officials. I wish that were true. I would continue to pay lip service to this end. However, I believe, as many of you do, this is a fool's errand. The other option is we have a revolution, and many of us believe the revolution has already begun. Historians tell us there's three stages of a revolution. The first stage of a revolution is a war of ideas, an information war. This is what I'm trying to accomplish on my website and on my talk show. I see the enemy at the gates while most of my friends and neighbors are sleeping through the attack. We are in a war of words, and if we fail to use our words to awaken all humanity, we will be hopelessly lost, and the globalists will serve us up for dinner. It should make any sense to you why 98% of their media is controlled by business interests, controlled one way or another by members of the Federal Reserve. In order to win this fight, we need more people speaking out, making videos, and calling MSN talk shows, and supporting talk shows like this one. We especially need to reach the police and the military in order to remind them of their constitutional duty to accept and to protect the people against a tyrannical government. Stage 2 of revolution consists of civil disobedience or nonviolent resistance. Thanks to Obama, he has given the Americans a perfect pretext to begin to resist our criminally controlled government. No matter what gun control laws Obama brings to the American people, all of us have a constitutional duty to disobey these unwanted policies. If this does not stem the tide of tyranny sweeping the country, then withhold your money. Stop paying taxes as much as possible. Do not shop in corporate chain markets controlled by the Federal Reserve members such as Walmart or any other known entity. Shop local and begin to trade and barter with your neighbors and your friends. Buy gold